Have you ever looked around your room and felt exhausted before you even started? Not because you've been working all day, not because you didn't sleep enough, not because something terrible happened, just because of the room itself. A chair covered in clothes, a desk buried under papers, coffee mugs scattered around the apartment, packages you never opened, laundry you never folded. Nothing seems urgent, nothing seems serious. Yet somehow, the moment you look at it, your energy disappears. Most people think clutter is just a visual problem, but psychologists have discovered something interesting. Every unfinished task your eyes can see becomes a tiny reminder inside your mind, a silent notification, a background process running all day long. One dirty dish isn't stressful. One shirt on a chair isn't stressful. One unopened package isn't stressful. But when dozens of unfinished tasks surround you every single day, your brain never fully relaxes. And that's exactly what happened to Daniel. Daniel was 29 years old. He lived alone in a small apartment on the third floor of an old building. Nothing fancy, nothing luxurious, just enough space for a couch, a desk, a kitchen, and a bedroom. A place that should have felt peaceful, but it didn't. Every morning started exactly the same. Alarm, coffee, work. Daniel worked from home, which meant he spent almost every waking hour inside that apartment. At first, he barely noticed the mess. A few dishes in the sink, a few clothes on the floor, a few empty bottles beside his desk. Nothing major. But weeks turned into months, and little things started piling up. The dishes became a stack. The stack became 2 stacks. Laundry transformed into small mountains. Boxes accumulated in corners. Old receipts covered countertops. And somehow, every day Daniel told himself the same thing. I'll deal with it tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week. Next week became next month. The strange thing was that Daniel wasn't lazy. He paid his bills on time. He exercised regularly. He met deadlines. He handled responsibilities. Yet whenever he thought about cleaning, he felt overwhelmed. The task felt too big, too exhausting, too complicated. So he avoided it. And every time he avoided it, the apartment became slightly worse. One Tuesday evening after finishing work, Daniel collapsed onto his couch. The room was silent. No television, no music, no phone, just silence. For the first time in weeks, he looked around carefully. The dishes, the laundry, the clutter, the boxes. And suddenly a thought appeared in his mind. What if this is part of the reason I feel so tired? Not all of it, but part of it. What if I'm carrying around dozens of unfinished decisions every day without realizing it? The thought stayed with him. The next afternoon, he ran into an older neighbor named Victor. Victor lived alone as well. But unlike Daniel, his apartment always seemed calm, organized, peaceful, nothing fancy, just peaceful. Victor never looked rushed, never looked stressed, never looked overwhelmed. Eventually Daniel asked him, "How do you keep your place so clean all the time?" Victor laughed. Then he said something unexpected. "I don't clean my apartment." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" Victor smiled. "I clean for 10 minutes. Daniel stared at him. 10 minutes? Victor nodded. That's the secret. Daniel expected some complicated productivity system, a schedule, a checklist, a special cleaning routine. Instead, he got 10 minutes. Victor explained. Most people don't fail because cleaning is hard. They fail because they imagine cleaning the entire apartment. The moment your brain hears that, it starts looking for excuses. Because cleaning an entire apartment sounds exhausting. It sounds like a project. It sounds like work. But 10 minutes? 10 minutes feels harmless. 10 minutes feels manageable. Anyone can survive 10 minutes. That evening, Daniel decided to try it. No expectations, no pressure, no perfect plan. He simply set a timer on his phone. 10 minutes. That's all. The timer started. At first he picked up an empty bottle, then another, then another. 2 minutes later, the bottles were gone. 4 minutes later, an entire trash bag was full. 6 minutes later, the kitchen counter became visible again. 8 minutes later, dishes were drying beside the sink. Then something strange happened. The timer went off. But Daniel didn't stop, because cleaning wasn't the difficult part. Starting had been the difficult part. Once he gained momentum, continuing felt easy. 5 more minutes passed, then another 5. When he finally stopped, 20 minutes had gone by. The apartment wasn't perfect, not even close, but it looked noticeably better. More importantly, it felt better. The next morning, Daniel noticed something unusual. The room felt lighter. The air felt different. Nothing magical had happened. The laundry still existed. There were still things to organize. But the apartment no longer felt like it was attacking him from every direction. For the first time in months, he felt comfortable sitting in his own living room. Psychologists sometimes refer to something called the Zeigarnik effect. It's the tendency for unfinished tasks to occupy mental space. Your brain doesn't like loose ends. It keeps reminding you, again and again and again. The more unfinished things you have around you, the more mental energy gets consumed in the background. Daniel didn't know the name of the phenomenon, but he could feel the difference. His mind felt quieter. Over the following week, he repeated the experiment. 10 minutes each day, sometimes exactly 10, sometimes 15, occasionally 20. But the rule never changed. The goal was 10. Not perfection, not spotless floors, not magazine-worthy organization. Just 10 minutes, something unexpected started happening. Cleaning became easier, not because the work changed, but because the story in his head changed. Before, cleaning felt enormous. Now it felt small. Before, it felt like a burden. Now it felt like a routine. Before, he waited for motivation. Now he simply started. And that's when Daniel learned one of the most important lessons of adulthood. Motivation rarely comes first. Action comes first. Most people believe they need to feel motivated before they begin. But that's backwards. You begin, then motivation appears. You take action, then momentum follows. Waiting to feel motivated is like waiting for a fire to start before gathering wood. It doesn't work that way. A month later, Daniel's apartment looked completely different. Not because he spent entire weekends cleaning, not because he forced himself through exhausting deep clean sessions, but because small actions had quietly accumulated over time. A few minutes every day. That's all. Friends started noticing. When visitors came over, Daniel no longer felt embarrassed. He no longer rushed around hiding clutter before people arrived. The apartment wasn't perfect, but it felt cared for. And strangely enough, other areas of his life improved too. He procrastinated less. He felt calmer. He slept better. Not because cleaning solved all his problems, but because he removed one source of constant mental friction. One evening, Daniel sat on his couch after another 10-minute session. The sun was setting through the window. The room was quiet. The sink was empty. The floor was clear. And for the first time in a very long time, he felt completely at peace. That's when he realized something. The goal of cleaning was never perfection. The goal was peace. Perfection is exhausting. Peace is achievable. Perfection asks for hours. Peace might only ask for 10 minutes. So if you're looking around your room right now and feeling overwhelmed, don't promise yourself a 3-hour deep clean. Don't tell yourself you're going to organize your entire life tonight. Don't make the task bigger than it needs to be. Start smaller. Much smaller. Set a timer. 10 minutes. Throw away the trash. Wash a few dishes. Fold a few clothes. Clear one surface. That's enough. And when the timer ends, you can stop. But you may discover exactly what Daniel discovered. The hardest part was never cleaning. The hardest part was beginning. And once you begin, you might be surprised by how much your life can change in just 10 minutes a day.